Hi there, good morning. As the US-Iran war enters a decisive phase, the battlefield is no longer confined to the skies over Iran or the waters of the Gulf. Instead, it is reshaping the global balance of power, stretching from Ukraine to energy markets, and from back-channel diplomacy to great power rivalry. While Washington intensifies its military campaign and negotiations remain fragile, a different question is gaining urgency. Who is truly benefiting from this war? Rising oil prices, shifting alliances, and mounting intelligence reports suggest that Vladimir Putin may be turning crisis into opportunity, leveraging the conflict to strengthen Russia's position in Ukraine, expand its geopolitical reach, and challenge the West. But is Moscow really in control of the game? And more importantly, are these gains sustainable? Or could they quickly turn into strategic risks? We continue our special coverage here on Qnews. Good morning, thanks for watching. I'm Mark Summers. India is moving to revive its energy partnership with Russia as the US-Iran war disrupts global oil flows and drives prices sharply higher. After previously reducing Russian imports under pressure from Donald Trump, New Delhi is now reconsidering its stance to secure supplies and stable ones. Talks are underway to increase crude and liquefied natural gas imports from Moscow, potentially restoring Russia as a major supplier. India has also sought US waivers to bypass sanctions, highlighting the strategic dilemma between energy security and geopolitical alignment. The shift underscores how the Iran war is reshaping global alliances, pushing major economies like India to rebalance towards Russia amid market volatility and supply uncertainty. Russia is reportedly sending upgraded Shahid-type drones to Iran, reversing earlier wartime roles when Tehran supplied similar systems to Moscow during the Ukraine and Russia war. US and European officials say the drones include enhanced navigation and anti-jamming capabilities developed on the Ukrainian battleground. Intelligence sources describe very active cooperation between Moscow and Tehran, though it remains unclear whether the shipment is symbolic or part of a broader military arrangement. The development highlights a deepening Russia-Iran defense partnership, raising concerns about escalation and the growing linkage between the Ukraine war and the Middle East conflict. At a recent Group of 7 foreign ministers meeting in France, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas clashed over Washington's approach to the Russia-Ukraine war. According to sources present, Kallas pressured Rubio to clarify when the United States would ramp up pressure on Russia, challenging perceived US reluctance to escalate sanctions or support beyond current levels. Rubio was reportedly visibly frustrated during the exchange, though he later denied any tension when speaking to reporters. The incident highlights growing European unease with US strategy and an ongoing transatlantic rift over how best to handle the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Now, to unpack the deeper strategic picture, we look beyond the battlefield to the broader geopolitical chessboard, where war, diplomacy, and energy intersect. From reported intelligence cooperation between Moscow and Tehran to growing concerns within the Group of Seven and questions surrounding the dynamics between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, the stakes extend far beyond the Middle East. Is Russia shaping outcomes or merely exploiting them? Now, to discuss this, we are joined by Dr. Nurhan El-Sheikh, who is a professor of political science, joining us from Cairo, and Professor Vincent Ligorio, who's a director of geopolitical department at Analytica for Intelligence, who is with us from Moscow. Thank you very much, both of you, for being here with us. Professor El-Sheikh, I'll come to you first. Are we looking at a war that is unintentionally benefiting Russia more than any other country, do you think?
Good morning, and thank you for having me with you. I think Russia may have some gains, but also it faces so many threats and challenges as well. If we are talking about gains, first of all, it is oil prices and gas prices. For sure, that suddenly uprising and unprecedented uprising of oil and gas prices may serve the Russian interests, because Russian economy along the last 4 or 3 years facing more and more burden concerning the Ukrainian war. Also plus that some of its partners and clients, if we can say that, in that market like India, faced a huge pressure from the United States to give up buying gas and oil in particular from Russia, and Trump threatened India to be under some sanctions, if we can call it like that, if it will go ahead in its cooperation with Russia. But now the United States itself it started to lift sanctions concerning the Russian oil and gas to calm the rising of the prices within the American market itself. So Russia, by the way, like the United States also one of the biggest benefit from what is going on, because you may know that the United States is now, and Trump himself mentioned too, that it is a very big seller to gas and oil. It is the fourth biggest country in the oil market, and it is the first in production, by the way. So yes, Russia may benefit from that, but at the same time it faces threats and challenges, because Russia, not like the United States, very far from the region. Russia is very close to the region, and any instability in the region may affect directly Russia. But economically, maybe also strategically, because nobody now is talking about Ukraine. This is maybe also positive and negative for Russia, because positive because it relaxes the pressure over Russia talking about Ukraine. Maybe also the aid to Ukraine, military and economic aid, maybe retreat from the United States as well as EU, because EU now facing a very critical economic problem because of the energy that energy crisis I mentioned. So yes, it relaxes the issue about Ukraine, but at the same time, nobody also talking about peace in Ukraine, and that 20-point proposal from Trump concerning Ukraine is now nobody talking about it.
Yes, it seems like a very long time ago now, that 20-point plan, doesn't it? Let me just bring Professor Ligorio in now. Good morning to you. What do you think then? Is Russia a spectator, a beneficiary, an active player in this war, or all three?
Good morning, Mark, and good morning to your audience. I partially agree with my distinguished colleagues. The role of Russia now and the situation for Russia is to be considered, let me say, a double situation. So we can split into pathway. The first is, as you define, a spectator, so an observer of the situation, and in relationship, especially with the energy and the supply chain of the energy crisis that we are observing now with the closure of Hormuz Strait and all the consequences that we are facing globally. First, because Russia is trying to position back itself as a, let me say, a safe port for former European partners. Will say, okay, you see the supply chain that your ally, America, and other countries propose to you through alternative routes is not safe anymore. So the land supply chain that I provided to you was the best option. So we are open for a long-standing partnership as we had before, and also is posing itself as a reliable energy supplier and resources supplier to India, China, and other countries as well. From the other side, I see and we're observing Russia as a concerned country in relationship with the potential failure of one of the stronger allies in the Gulf region, that is Iran. If we have seen like and observed the loss of Venezuela as a minor incident for Russia, the involvement of Russia with Iran is quite deep, and let me say a regime change or the consequence of say devastating a country as Iran would be, from Russian perspective, of course, would be quite a damage for even the prolonging situation with Ukraine. We know the involvement of Iran in supplying drones and other equipments, and this is very, very, let me say, delicate turning point for Russia in understanding what will be the geopolitical map for his future.
Okay, coming back to you, Professor El-Sheikh, do you think it would be accurate or it would be fair to frame this conflict as part of a larger geopolitical restructuring rather than just a standalone war?
I think so, because what is going on is really unprecedented, and the region, maybe the global balance itself will not back to what it was before the war. For many reasons. We are talking about two whole projects trying to govern or to dominate the region. The Israeli one, what Netanyahu declared Great Israel, and the very old one, which is Iran, initiated in the 70s. This is very important, and this is very critical. Plus, we have international great power like United States involved, and up to the date, it couldn't impose and achieve all its goals. It is not the first time. We remember Vietnam, Afghanistan, etc., etc. But this is really critical, because our region is the heart of the world, and it reflects the balance of power, not only regionally but internationally. So the whole region and maybe the whole world will not back to what it was. It is not just the war, but we have a very important and crucial development along the last decades, and recently the last decade. So the war actually it just clear what is going on and deepen it, and that the whole world will not back to what it was. Even the Gulf, I think they distrust now the United States, and they are trying to rearrange their partnership, not necessarily toward Russia, but I think the most important will be toward China, because we are talking a lot about Russia, but there are other very important key player in the region, which we are not talking a lot about, which is China. And from my point of view, the main support to Iran is coming from China more than Russia.
Okay, and Professor Lagoria, can I ask you this? Is it true that Russia is providing intelligence to Iran and also drone support as well? And what does that signify?
Well, it's evident, and Russia is not hiding that. Instead, that if US provided support to Ukraine, why we cannot provide support to another historical ally, especially in the conflict in this conflict between Russia and the West, and not Ukraine. So yes, Russia is providing support. We know the Russia interests in maintaining the status quo in terms of political status quo in Iran. This signifies that Russia do not allow other parties to take control of his interest in the region. An example that may help you, despite the Assad departure from the Syrian regime, first of all, we have seen let me say a similar framework. The first one, Russia rescued Assad as a person, not as a leader. So this shown something very very important to the parties. A similar, let me say, aid was proposed to the former Alatoya Khamenei father. And the second is that Russia positioned again itself in the region with a new Syrian leadership. So a change of regime in Iran with unknown consequences in the region would threaten Russian interest in globally, if not, regionally, if not globally.
Okay, Professor El-Sheikh, what do you think about this cooperation and help that is being given by Russia to Iran? Does it cross a line? And why do you think President Trump is so relaxed about it?
Iran, as my colleague from Moscow mentioned, support Russia during Ukrainian crisis. Actually, maybe Iran and North Korea, the only two supported Russia strategically. Maybe other countries keep relations, keep cooperation economically, but the one who really supported Russia during the war and maintain a good help to Russia was North Korea and Iran. So I think that it is normal. And by the way, Russia and Iran has a comprehensive strategic cooperation agreement. Yes, it is not a common defensive like NATO or something like that, but it is a comprehensive cooperation strategic cooperation agreement, and it allows them to have some mutual help and also to exchange information if necessary. So it is normal among partners to do so. And as my colleague mentioned, United States, European countries and others do the same and still doing the same with Ukraine. So why it is not for Russia? The problem, I think, that maybe it put Russia in some critical situation because it is also a very close partner to the Gulf countries, and Emirates, Saudi Arabia also paid a lot or a great support to Russia during Ukrainian war. So I think may also put some Russia in a critical situation. But I think Gulf countries can understand what is going on, particularly that what Russia may provide is not, I'm quite sure that it is not against the Arab Gulf countries.
Yeah, Professor Ligorio, it's a good point there made by Professor El-Sheikh, is it not? How important is the relationship between Moscow and Tehran, Professor Ligorio, and does it cause awkwardness between allies in other Gulf countries?
Well, the axis, as I would call, between Tehran and Moscow is quite fundamental for the stability in the region from Russian perspective and from Tehran perspective. And what I want to add is that the information that we have is that Russia is providing mostly defensive intelligence information rather than offensive. We know that Russia have to Iran to shut down Starlinks in order to let me say not facilitate the attack on certain infrastructure at the beginning of the war, rather than providing intelligence related to attack the Gulf monarchies. Of course, these kind of support, and I agree with my distinguished colleagues from Cairo, would, let me say, put a bit of tension between Russia and the Gulf monarchy. But the relationship between Russia and the Emirates or Saudi Arabia is not that strong as and strategically important as the one with Iran. We remember the beginning of the conflict and during the COVID that Russia and Saudi Arabia had some tension on changing the OPEC plus negotiation in terms of producing or reducing the supply of oil in order to change and to stabilize the price. So we know that there are few points on stabilization, and of course this is showing that to the monarchy of the Gulf that Russia is a stronger ally rather than the United States. I have written a piece a few days ago, published on an Italian newspaper, about the risk for let me say of stability for the monarchy, so that the monarchy were not affected by the so-called Arab Springs. So their stability was also given by the safety that and the shield that America theoretically provided them. But this shield now dissolved during this conflict. So Russia is trying to position itself as also a stable and trustworthy ally also in this perspective.
Professor El-Sheikh, let's talk about oil a little bit. You mentioned that America is the largest producer of oil in the world, which of course it is. But when it comes to Russia, has the lifting of sanctions by President Trump and the surge in global oil prices really strengthened Russia's economic and political position?
I think that will help a lot to the Russian economy, because actually the expectation for the Russian economy this year was not that optimistic. But the Iranian-Israeli war giving a lot of hope concerning the Russian economy, concerning the quantity, concerning the price. I think that Russia that would help, because we may all know that the renewed of gas and oil support the Russian budget by almost from 50 to 60%. So we are talking about half of the budget, the whole national budget of Russia, supported by oil and gas. So it will help a lot. And also, as well as we shouldn't know the food. Russia, the biggest in exporting wheat and grains in general. So I think that would also help a lot the Russian economy, because lately the Russian also coming from grains is I think it's $26 billion, which is a very good amount per year. So I think that the two, energy and the grains, would help a lot the Russian economy. And I think most important is the political the political gains for Russia. The war consolidates the Russian status economically, military, and also as well as politically and diplomatically. Because you may remember what happened during the Ukrainian war, and the United States trying to isolate Russia. But after the summit of Alaska, and now Russia back to the whole world normally, and no one now criticize what Russia did in Ukraine, particularly. But after what Trump did in Venezuela and now in Iran, no one is talking about violation of international law, etc., etc. So I think this is another big gain for Russia.
Yeah, and it's worth talking about the Russia-Ukraine war, isn't it? Which is, of course, still going on. We have to remember. Professor Ligorio, this energy windfall for Russia, is this going to translate into tangible gains and help for Russia on the ground in Ukraine?
Well, considering that this conflict is the conflict between, let me say, U.S. and Israel against Iran is just nearly a month going on. We know that for Russia to achieve financial and economical goals in order to support this conflict will need, like, let me say, several months, if not year. But of course, strategically is positioning Russia in a better position in this conflict. We know that the operation on the battlefield they are continuing with consistent success for Russia. Of course, Russia is also under pressure, as we see these days in Moscow, under several attacks with drones, with some let me say issues, especially in the capital, in the center. But we know that Russia is gaining more than losing in this month, even on the battlefield, because with the spotlight that is moved from Ukraine to other regions, Russia has, let me say, more free hands than before. And one thing that I want to highlight is the first visit after several years of Russian Parliament State Duma representative in the US. This may give you, let me say, the temperature of the situation and a real snapshot of what's going on between Russia and US nowadays.
Yeah, very interesting there that you say it's not just the fact that Russia is benefiting financially for their war in Ukraine, but also that the spotlight isn't on them. That's very interesting. Professor El-Sheikh, it's a very strange world that we live in now, isn't it, where there's a war in one region that's directly financing a conflict in another. Is this a new kind of geopolitics, an energy geopolitics perhaps?
It is our world. It is globalization and interdependence, which is making like that. And along the history, usually In all wars, there are some people who are benefit and some other lose, some countries benefit and other lose. This is normal, I think, in all wars, in all regions. I think that Russia is not the only one who gains a lot from that war. There are other countries and other maybe benefits from that in the United States. The company of arms, the company of energy, the companies of oil, they are benefit a lot. I remember during the first year of Ukrainian crisis, the oil companies in the United States, its profit reached almost $200 billion, as the same with also the arms companies. So I think in all cases, even within the one state, there are losers and gainers. In the United States now, the American people may suffer from the rising of prices of oil, etc., but the companies gains a lot. This is, I think, this is life, and this is the world we all live in.
Yes, and let's not forget potential insider trading as well, with people betting on outcomes, billions made just a few days ago on betting on the war. Professor Ligorio, do you think this demand for Russian oil marks a reversal of the Western efforts, particularly in Europe, to isolate Moscow? Do they have? Are they now in a very bad situation, which makes them look silly, frankly?
Well, we see with the internal political conflict between Budapest and the other EU capitals that this is a situation that I mean, as a European, myself, I'm observing that Europe is losing a bit of control, and we see that the total ban for Russian oil and other energy resources has been postponed by a month. This is signaling how delicate the situation for European countries, and also we see the wall between the political, but even the military wall that there is between Hungary and Kiev, with consistent attack and even more than a political threat. And we see also the tension between other European countries to the G7 that pose a tension between the US and EU, with focusing mostly on certain aspects rather than others. So this is quite a moment for European Union as a political subject. We see that the weight of political union as a subject is decreasing day by day. So we are in a critical moment that has been observed by already since the conflict between Russia and Ukraine began.
And you were saying, Professor El-Sheikh, about not only the United States or Russia benefiting from this war. India has, in a very different situation, isn't it? It was, of course, getting oil from Russia, and is very close to Russia, but also close to the United States. It was hit with very high tariffs as a result of Trump not being happy about the relationship between Narendra Modi and Putin. But they seem to have come out of this very well. Now they can get their oil once again from Russia. Does that mean that India will end up having a very good war, do you think, Professor?
I think India, from one of the countries, may benefit and gains also a lot, because during the Ukrainian war, India was a very important channel for Russian oil. not only to United States, but I deeply believe even to Europe itself. So the oil companies, the American oil companies, buying the Russian oil from India, and that's why they allow lately India to continue cooperation with Russia and buying oil and gas from Russia to serve the European market, because Europe in really a very critical situation. Qatar now hold on the production of gas, Iraq as well. So European in very critical, I think it is not critical situation. It is a direct threat to energy security of Europe and the whole European economy, industry, everything depend on energy. So
I'm going to have to interrupt you there, unfortunately, because we are just out of time. It's been a fascinating discussion. Great to have you guys with us to look at this war from a slightly different perspective. It's been very interesting. I know our viewers will think so too. Professor Nohat El-Sheikh, you're joining us from Cairo, and Professor Vincent Ligorio in Moscow. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. And that's the latest for now in our discussions. We'll have more discussions as we go through the morning. And of course, we'll be bringing you any updates. Stay with us for continuing coverage here on Q News.